Yeah, we've been through that. 50,000 subscribers, greatly unbelievable, blah blah blah. Anyway, people ask me some questions, let's answer them.
Woo, short intro for once.
Keeps asks, are you balding? Well, this has started well. Since you asked, I guess. No, I have a luscious head of hair and am genetically predisposed to keep it. The flip side, of course, is that a beard is forever confined to the realm of the unobtainable. Jasper asks, how do you make your voiceovers sound good? A lot of prior experience with audio production gave me a leg up when I started on this strange narration journey, but it still took a fair few attempts to find the right sound. The recording process itself is a frustrating time for me, because even 50,000 subscribers later, I still haven't learned how to speak properly. People I know in real life who have found my videos probably aren't that surprised at their content, but they may well be surprised at how I can speak for more than a few seconds at consistent, understandable pace without stumbling and with an authoritative tone. Trust me, I do not sound like this in real life. I'll often end up recording a line half a dozen times or so to get a take I'm happy with. After that, it's the audio effect stack. This used to jump around wildly between videos, but these days I hardly touch it. I think I've found a sweet enough spot. Noise reduction, reverb reduction, noise gate, EQ, de-esser, compressor, limiter, and more EQ. The real powerhouse here is the de-esser. It's what gets rid of the shrillness and really brings out the depth of my voice. And even then, I still have to cut out errant plosives and adjust timings down to the frame until I go half mad. Proper awareness of timing is, in my opinion, the biggest factor that separates amateur-sounding narration from something more polished. It's also what gets me all those nice comments about comedic timing. I don't have comedic timing. A highly edited version of me does. At the end of it all, it's probably worth it, because you go from a raw recording like this one, with no effects or timing adjustment, to something that disguises me as a proper YouTuber. Tiger asks, are you still British? Sadly, yes. Anonymous asks, can you help me cope with the fact that everything is meaningless and we're all going to die without leaving anything that we will remember and there is nothing we can do about it? Sadly, no. Mr. Kutrick asks, what question do you want someone to ask you? Please respond only with the question, not the answer to the question. While it's extremely tempting to say my answer to this question is itself, thus causing some kind of paradox, I'm going to go with, what hidden secrets are there in your videos that seemingly no one has found? While there are plenty of secrets people have discovered, there are many that nobody has commented on, and a few whose continued obscurity is absolutely hilarious and a teensy bit worrying. You'll see what I mean when you find them. Anonymous asks, have you ever considered removing your initials and becoming Liver Ugg? Funnily enough, no. Stydian Raven asks, trans rights? Yeah, why not? Spud asks, can you rename your Discord server Lugnuts, please? Yeah, why not? Stephen Murderous Rampager asks, what happened to the poor soul who did the Smelt All the Melt All meme? They became Narratizer, creator of many weird YouTube things, including the Spore is a Pitiful Worm series that so many others have copied since. On that note, Ikri asks, do you have another channel that isn't yours that you wish more people would watch? Aside from Narratizer, I have to mention my many Media Wars adversaries from way back when. They all do excellent diplomacy game analysis and chit-chat. For 5D chess, meanwhile, there's 5D Lexi, and for relaxing Thrive gameplay, I can recommend Son of Mogef. Metamaths does Metamaths, Ratboy Pleb does FTL animations that deserve just all the attention, and I'll also mention Tom Wildenhain, the man who made the PowerPoint Turing machine, purely because the fact he has fewer subscribers than me proves there is no justice in this universe. Similarly, Vitor Gabriel asks, what are some of your favourite channels that do video essays? There are, of course, many of these, so I'll focus on those my YouTube style owes its greatest debt to. First off, Just Right. I've grown pretty tired of YouTube videos saying blindingly obvious things about storytelling media. It's something I've made a not always successful effort to avoid myself. Just Right, though, consistently features genuine and meaningful media analysis, and the channel has made me appreciate the stories I enjoy even more. Tantacruel exists at the intersection of music, software, and chaos. Deeply researched, unflinching sarcasm, a model for many of my own more frenzied moments. Just don't tell him I like Coldplay, okay? And Austin McConnell's ability and willingness to jump around wildly in topic between consistently fascinating videos has had a strong influence on my own YouTube outlook. But stretching the definition of video essay slightly, my award for Best YouTube Channel featuring one person making long-form combination fact, opinion and entertainment videos goes to Lemino. There's a real atmosphere about Lemino's work that's hard to find anywhere else. Incredible craftsmanship, engaging storytelling, and just the right sprinkling of levity. The pacing and slickness of these videos is, to tell the truth, what I aspire to for my channel one day. One day. Anonymous asks, ketchup or mustard? Both are good, but mayonnaise. Dinosaur Fan 2011 asks, how did the dinosaurs actually die? Okay, for those who are unaware, I recently put out a survey for upcoming video purposes, asking, what killed the dinosaurs? The short version is, the answer most of you think is correct is probably correct. But the story of how science knows that, and more importantly, how you know that, is so much crazier and more scandalous than anyone realizes. The long version I won't spoil, although I will say it gets longer by the day. What started, would you believe it, as a 10-minute spin-off from Jefferson's Mammoth Cheese, has quickly spiraled into a massive pile of research and a million different threads I must somehow weave together into a coherent argument. I took a multi-hour round trip to video a house, there's an extended segment about Pythagoras, and I may or may not have written half an epic rap battle of history. If everything does come together, this video will be a rather special one. Arguably the most important video I've made yet. Its enormous scope, though, is making me reconsider my upload schedule for the near future. I may pivot to a few smaller things first, just so you don't all think I've got extinct, while I try and live up to this idea. I want to take my time for this one. Hydrothermical Vents to Smelt All the Meltal asks, can you use this part of the video to plug Thrive? If you say so. For the few of you who haven't seen any of my videos on the subject, Thrive is a game about the evolution of life, currently focusing on the simulation of realistic cellular ecosystems and aiming to go much further. It's open source and largely the result of volunteer work, some of which is mine. It's available on Steam or for free if you download the custom launcher, and you can also support the team via their Patreon. Aristotelis asks, what is your favourite colour? I'm going to answer this Jeopardy style using another question, this one from Cleverland. What do you think the colour green is? John and Name Optional both ask, what is your job? As should be clear from my upload frequency, YouTube is not my actual job, and I'm not intending it to be. More on that later. Since graduating with a Masters in Mathematics last summer, which in answer to a question from My Name Isn't Oliver, went very well, I've taken a job as a software developer. The career options advertised to mathematics graduates, aside from PhD, which I decided I just don't have the stamina for, seem to focus on finance, statistics, or software. Financial jargon literally makes my brain switch off, which I should probably be more worried about than I am, and I've never been the biggest fan of applied stats. Software development was therefore the obvious choice. I'm good at it, and I enjoy it, even if I can't say it's my ultimate passion or anything, so I'm perfectly happy with it for the time being. Sometimes, though, I do gaze longingly at integrals, wishing I still had an excuse to solve them. On the software front, I received several questions asking about my favourite programming language. Probably C# nowadays, but I do have fond memories of the small amount of Haskell I experienced in my degree. I wonder why. Maybe it's rare to be a fan of both object-oriented and functional languages, but I just find both models rather satisfying. Bob, not my name, asks, how many eggs would I have to throw at you to defeat you? If it's a hit, just the one. That would be disgusting, and I'd give up immediately. Anonymous asks, how are you so cool? FE26 asks, what is the most noteworthy dream you remember dreaming? There are many, but I'll go with a couple that actually had creative consequences. For example, I once had a dream with a very intriguing time travel related premise that I spent the following day obsessing over until I'd scrawled out a synopsis for an entire novel. I still plan to expand it into a full book someday, although I'll have to overrule my subconscious on its decision to have Bugs Bunny as the protagonist. You know, for copyright reasons. On the more outlandish side, there's also the time my sleeping brain fused Kim Jong-un, Gordon Ramsay, and Thanos into a being it dubbed Kim Jong-shroom, and I had no choice but to Photoshop this demon child into the real world the next morning. No need to thank me. Vitor Gabriel, again, asks, is there any subject you'd make a video about out of spite? It depends on what that spite is aimed at. If someone were to comment, say, he will never make a video comparing running out of soap to the heat death of the universe, then yeah, I can definitely see myself making that video, just to spite the fool who underestimates my power. But otherwise, I can't say I have much desire to make angry videos. One of the highlights of my YouTube experience has been introducing people to new and underappreciated things and seeing their positive reactions. Videos about my favourite board game, my favourite book, my favourite video game. Paraphrasing a character from my favourite TV show, I like liking things. I'm not above pointing out flaws or trying to understand why I didn't like something, but you'll never catch me claiming X film is a cinematic disaster or Y show killed my childhood, no matter how algorithmically lucrative that may be. I just don't want to be that person. Iggy the Fool asks, did you ever put more work into 5D diplomacy? 5D diplomacy with multiverse time travel was a ridiculous idea that nonetheless yielded a proof of concept. It was buggy, hacky, and had serious design problems, yet I too keep coming back to the concept. I haven't put in any actual work since that video, but I've mused on it from time to time. Perhaps if I find a gap between future videos, I can create something properly with a proper game engine, but I can't promise anything. Tekamania asks, in which stage of the video creation process do you find the most joy? I did answer this question last time, but I'm including it again because I think my answer's changed. Previously, I said every stage before the video editing itself was some level of tedious, with the final stage providing most enjoyment. I've since realised that verdict is much more situational than that. That was true for my FTL video, but for Foundation, a few months later, the roles were reversed. I had a blast writing the script, but found editing a real pain in the Asimov. Elsewhere, a sensible introduction to category theory was, I'm sorry to say, a bit of a struggle right to the last. In stark contrast to 27 unhelpful facts about category theory, which proved immense fun every step of the way. What does that say about my creative preferences? That I can't stick with serious or valuable stuff and gravitate towards stupid jokes? Or should I be encouraged that I nonetheless worked through the dull bits inherent in every creative pursuit worth its salt? This is one question I don't have an answer for today. Sol Antia asks, when are you doing another category theory video? 5 PM UTC this Thursday, courtesy of the Topos Institute. Link in the description. Seriously though, I've finished with academia for now, so I doubt I'm best placed to speak on category theory from a pedagogic perspective these days. It's all gone a bit fuzzy. That said, the dinosaur video is, in fact, merely a thematic precursor to an even more ambitious plan for a series of mathematics videos unlike any I've seen on YouTube. And category theory is bound to get a word or two in there. So, assuming this plan actually comes to fruition one day, it's been ruminating in my head for a couple of years now, watch this space. My friends will get this and you shouldn't asks, do you pronounce the G in GIF? Begrudgingly. Bodhi asks, will you ever do a face reveal? Not in the near future. For one, the thought of being recognised by a stranger in public still weirds me out. For another, all that manipulation from earlier is much harder to do with video. I know I don't pop on screen, and I don't really know how to fake that with editing. Finally, I see it as an opportunity for creative censorship. How much emotion can I get out of a rectangle and some crudely drawn lines, for instance?
And what other creative ways are there to just about hide my face?
After Sardom asks, did you know there's a fish behind you?
Oh, so there is.
After Sardom actually asks, do you like Kerbal Space Program? I do indeed, it's one of my most played games on Steam. I really appreciate how well it translates complex ideas into intuitive gameplay, truly a masterpiece in that regard. It is to orbital mechanics what I hope Thrive can be to microbiology. Pip asks, any good recommendations from what you've been watching / playing / reading / listening to recently? Watching. It has its flaws, but the final season of His Dark Materials has a strong recommendation from me. The two biggest problems for the entire show, in my opinion, have been irregular pacing and frequent unwillingness to actually explain why characters are doing anything they do. But looking past these issues, just seeing the final book competently adapted for the screen was enough for me. And then the final episode happened. It is perfect, no other word for it. Few things I have ever watched have done such a number on my emotions. Now do the same for Mortal Engines, you cowards. Playing. My friend recently introduced me to Bristol 1350, a social deduction board game about racing plague cards. Yes, it's exactly as silly and wonderful as it sounds. Reading. I'm going with Other Lands by Thomas Halliday. It's a bit unorthodox for a popular science book on paleontology, eschewing many towering icons of the past and most human context in favour of delicately rendered descriptions of lichen takes some getting used to. But by the end, I was hooked. Nothing else has come close to emphasising just how strange yet interconnected the world of prehistory, not just one or two animals, really is. And listening to. I just tend to throw tracks I like into one big playlist I put on shuffle anytime I need music, so really I've been listening to a reordering of most of the same old stuff. But since you asked, I guess the most recent addition to that pile is the album Tantrum by Dilettante. Very nice album. And finally, your friendly neighbourhood AI asks, what motivates you to continue making YouTube videos? I've done a lot of soul-searching about this question over the past few months. It's become alarmingly difficult to motivate myself to devote time to YouTube, and I want to know why. Through a relative drought of videos and increased experimentation from those that have appeared, I have learnt a few things for certain. I don't want my channel to be a job, and I don't want to clutter it with commercial incentives. I have the luxury of letting my videos explode or disappear with no real risk. YouTubers who take the plunge to go full-time don't have that. They have to play to the platform's increasingly inhumane incentive structures. I don't want making rent to depend on how wacky a face I pull in a thumbnail, you know? Of course, crowdfunding is an option. I hesitate to use it though due to the wide variety of stuff I produce and even wider variety of stuff I plan to produce. A lot of people are going to feel cheated if I deviate too much. Really, I just don't want externally imposed creative restrictions. For a long time now, I've seen the channel as mostly a creative outlet for myself, and I've decided that's the singular aim from now on. Creating things, even with the difficulties along the way, is just immensely fulfilling to me. It's been wonderful to find an audience for those creations and inspire and be inspired by the interesting people who find them. So thank you all very much for all that. But at the same time, having 50,000 of you there to scrutinise what I make, or in many cases what I don't make, does bring its own problems, its own pressures. Creating increasingly elaborate things in my spare time is only going to stretch timescales further. Even if many of you are happy to wait and tell me you're happy to wait, that won't stop the feeling that I'm being watched. Being able to ignore that would make the whole thing a bit more pleasant. But I'm not going to solve this problem now. I'll just keep going and see what happens, and hope to regain that motivation through making fun, well-received things of undetermined nature. Whew, that got a bit deep there. Well, that's it for the moment. Thank you ever so much to everyone who submitted a question. As you might imagine now, the list gets pretty long, so I had to cut the majority. Apologies if your question didn't make it. Thanks again to everyone for being here and seeing me through it all. Your support means a lot to me. See you all next time. Goodbye.